the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
The prince who was promised, and are we sure the Jaguars are good? Are we sure the Jaguars offense isn't cooked? And now Zay Jones probably gone, and rightfully so, for the rest of the year. You look at their wide receiver groups. You were talking about Calvin Ridley being used in the wrong position potentially in their wide receiver grouping. It went awry in every possible way. So before JP defends his Jacksonville Jaguars and the 6-3 Jacksonville Jaguars.
So first and foremost, let's get it out of the way, right? The Jaguars lost to Sam Darnold. Okay, those are facts. That is an indisputable fact. Sam Darnold was the quarterback that kneeled to beat the Jaguars. So the Jaguars losing to Sam Darnold, let's just get that out of the way. Now that we know that happened, I will say I'm loving this. The 49ers are back. Inevitably, they're back. But as a 49ers fan right now, the world is insane. You win 5 games in a row. The 5th game being you beat the best defense in the NFL, and you beat the brakes off them. I'm like, the 49ers will never lose again. They're going to win the Super Bowl. This is decided. They then proceed to lose 3 games to decent, arguably good teams, but they should have won all of those games. And they lost all 3. And I'm like, okay, well, can a trade even fix this? Is the defensive coordinator just royally cooked?
Guess what that trade did?
Well, I'm like, is Steve Wilkes like really like is this defensive scheme so different from what he's comfortable with doing that it's just work, like it's not gonna work, like we're screwed? And then they come back and play the 6-2 Jacksonville Jaguars, coming off a 5-win streak. The number 1 overall pick, Prince who was promised, literally has hair like Jesus, Trevor Lawrence. And they beat him 34-3. They don't score a single touchdown. Trevor Lawrence throws no touchdowns and has 2 interceptions and a fumble. I'm like, yes, I'm ecstatic. The 49ers are winning the Super Bowl again. Everything is great. I'm so happy. But like, I just have really spooky vibes about this season. Tonight was another indication of it. Nothing makes sense. Like every time you think you have a grip or a handle on how this NFL season is going, you get this crazy curveball. But let's cover the 49ers stuff because it is necessary. Brock Purdy, maybe the best game he's ever had. Brock Purdy currently is the number 1 in EPA for the entire NFL quarterback group. His EPA right now is higher than the highest point Matt Ryan's was the Super Bowl year that they lost, the 28-3 game, which is, remember, that's Matt Ryan's best year ever, one of the best offenses you've ever seen. Chase knows that full and well. That was a very good Matt Ryan. Brock Purdy,
You don't have to talk about the end of
had
it, but
throws in this game. I mean, we could talk about the Kittle throw first, because that was maybe one of the prettiest throws I've seen as a 49ers fan in my adult life, right? Like defense in his face, falling backwards, breadbasket throw to George Kittle. Gorgeous. It was great to see George Kittle. George Kittle got a touchdown, right? Like we've been waiting for it a little long. Debo got a rushing touchdown, just like the good old days. Ayuk got a touchdown. Even Juice got a touchdown. So, Christian McCaffrey didn't, but, he's had enough. He had a good run. It was just, the 49ers had a few of these along the way, but it was a perfect game. Through and through. It's a perfect game. Is Brock Purdy elite? Or is he elite?
No.
I agree. But still, right now he is. I don't know. I will say it is the one thing I do want to say, because I did think about this a lot. As a 49ers fan, I've said this before, all I can ever think about is, can they win the Super Bowl? Because I've seen a lot of big runs that don't amount to anything. So for me, it's Super Bowl or nothing. And I see what happened when Trent Williams was gone and when Debo was gone for those games, and I see how they struggled. And then they come back and they play well, and that's great. And I just kind of worry, does Kyle Shanahan need everything to be perfect for him to win? That's a big worry that I have right now. Like, do they need to be fully healthy throughout the playoffs so we can have these type of games? I don't know.
10 targets for Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. Is that something that the Niners just do, or is this something with the Jaguars that they did not have a handle and they can't?
Hold on. It is something they do. They are obsessed with Christian McCaffrey to a point that it bothers the hell out of me. But there was the end of the game where they very clearly were trying to get Christian McCaffrey.
Trying to get him that record. I respect it, honestly.
And honestly, Doug Peterson after the game talked to Kyle and was like, hey, I get it, man. He's a former player.
I respect it.
You know what I mean? Like, why not? So I think they have an obsession. Kyle has an obsession with Christian McCaffrey. Kyle has had George Kittle. He's had Brandon Ayuk. He's had Deebo Samuel. These are some of the most exciting athletic offensive players in the NFL. And it pales in comparison to how Kyle has acted since he's gotten Christian McCaffrey. Like, this is a guy with an injury history. And every single week, Kyle's like, don't care. Christian McCaffrey. What'd you see, JP?
All right. So, you want to know what happened? Shit happens. Like, that's really shit happens, you know? I think the biggest thing for the Jaguars was it's really hard to win a game when both and the other team knows you can't block. Like, that's the offense is built in such a way that they try to be efficient with the run game, screens, winning in the intermediate areas of the offense or of the field. First of all, that doesn't really work against the 49ers because I think everybody took the Nick Bosa quote about making Trevor Lawrence go to his other reads. I think everybody took that way out of proportion because that's what they do to every quarterback in the fucking league. Like, they do that to everybody. They want to take away the RPOs and the quick game. They want you to think that you can't drop back and throw the ball because of the pass rush. So you're forcing them to throw it quick and they can close the gap with the speed they have on defense. The problem is that is exactly how Jacksonville plays. They don't generate explosives because they want to be a methodical, quick offense. But you can't do that if you can't block. They were outmatched up front. Like, that's really the biggest thing offensively. You cannot win if you cannot block. Second of all, the Jaguars did not have a great game plan passing game-wise. They knew they were going to see a lot of man. This game played out like how the 49ers defended the Cowboys, which makes sense because both those offenses are very similar in terms of their problems and how they approach offense. They both want to be very methodical, very quick game, brutally efficient offenses. But that does not work for the Cowboys specifically. They have the offensive line, but not the receivers. The Jaguars have the receivers, but not the offensive line. Which problem would you rather have? I don't know at this point. But they don't have – Trevor Lawrence was hitting his back foot and did not have anybody to throw the ball to.
Was it separation or scheme?
Both. The problem for the Jaguars is Zay Jones might be the most important receiver on the team. And there are multiple reasons for that. First of all, Zay Jones is the only receiver over 6'2" that they can trust. Second of all, he is their verticality in the offense. He opens up a lot of the mid-range game for Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk are very similar receivers in terms of how they are best used. But the problem is they only use Christian Kirk for the motions and free releases and not Calvin Ridley. So it makes Calvin Ridley into a stationary, static X receiver. You don't have to do that, but you have to put somebody on the outside with Zay Jones hurt. Who are you going to put there? Elijah Cooks? Tim Jones? Tim Jones might have been the best receiver yesterday because he was the only one who could catch a pass. But the problem was Trevor Lawrence was hitting his back foot, and either nobody was open or the pressure was in his face. Like, it's really hard to win that way. I think people lost during the 5-game win streak that this offense still wasn't perfect. This offense was not moving at its best. Trevor Lawrence was able to get rid of the ball and mitigate pressure so well that it kind of masked everything. But you can't do that against the 49ers because they close gaps and close speed so quickly. The run game has not been efficient. Like, I think they have a few big Travis Etienne runs, and in between that are gains of 1 yard, 2 yards, negative yards. Tank Bigsby is a walking turnover at this point. He had another drop pass that led to an interception. I think the Jaguars will be fine despite all of that. They will be fine. I think the issues that they have can be fixed. I just need to know that, like, next week is going to be a very big game. I think that is next week in week 12, very big games in terms of the morale of this team. Honestly, like, this is a really dumb theory that I was talking about with some of my former writers at Big Cat Country. The Jaguars are better when nobody believes in them. The Jaguars are the Jaguars have always been the underdog. They have always been the team that nobody thinks can win. As soon as you build expectations, they don't perform. They always are the underdog. I don't know why, but this has been the Jaguars thing my entire existence. They do not do well with expectations. It doesn't matter the players, the coach, the fucking owners. They always are the underdogs. They always have to be the underdog. They'll be fine. This was just a game against a team that you match up very poorly against.
I'm curious about something, and you guys are all much smarter than me when it comes to the big picture of these things. But this week, look what happened to Justin Herbert, to Josh Allen, to Trevor Lawrence. These are the best quarterbacks in the NFL. They really are. Like, Josh Allen has his issues, and there's a lot going on with coaching changes, but these are elite quarterbacks. And they can't get it done. Yet you have guys like Brock Purdy out here, but it's like, do you really need everything the 49ers have just to be successful?
To be fair, I think this is really going to be really nitpicky, but Justin Herbert played a phenomenal game on Sunday. The reason the Chargers
talking
lost,
about how they have consistently
the reason the Chargers the reason the Chargers lost is because they gave up 41 points and 500 yards of offense.
But that's what I'm asking. I'm saying, like, look at how much the Niners have right now. They just traded for Chase Young. Like, is this really what the future of the NFL looks like? Like, we were talking tonight about how the Bills don't have any receivers when they have maybe the best receiver in the NFL. Like, how much talent nowadays does it really take? Like, it's so crazy.
I counter that with the Niners offense really didn't take off until Christian McCaffrey got there. Or even before that, the Niners offense didn't take another step until Brandon Ayuk stepped up. It takes getting good players works. Like, that's you need good players.
Breaking news.
Not only do you need good players, you need at least passable players. The Chargers defense is really bad. That's really the biggest thing. Like, Justin Herbert.
That's what happens when you have an offensive first coach.
Oh, yeah,
that's why you got to get a defensive-minded coach in there. And
Justin Herbert and the Chargers scored.
Okay.
Justin Herbert and the Chargers scored with 3 minutes and 42 seconds left to tie the game. They did not touch the ball the rest of the game. Like, it happens. Josh Allen and the Bills, I don't know, man. That's just Josh Allen's game is going to be for his entire career. This has been the Josh Allen thing. He is going to have the big wow splash plays. He's also going to do some really dumb shit. Like, that's just it. There is no quarterback that is scheme proof or you can't surround him with good players. I mean, the only quarterback that you can really say that about is Patrick Mahomes, but we're seeing now that's being pushed to its absolute limit.
Yeah.
So I think it's more what's going on with NFL offenses this year is multiple things. Defenses are finally catching up. Remember, for a period between 2018 to 2020, offenses were blowing the fuck up, and defenses were stuck in the Gus Bradley, not Dan Quinn, but I guess Dan Quinn, the Gus Bradley, Seattle Legion of Boom, cover 3, and then Kyle Shanahan basically pantsed Dan Quinn and the Falcons in the or not Dan Quinn and the Falcons. It was the Seahawks game in I think 2016. I think Kyle Shanahan has talked about this game at length. How he studied that defense for years and came up with specific plays to beat that defense. It came to a point where all the Shanahan, McVays, they start popping up and they can always beat those Legion of Boom defenses. So then defenses had to adjust. And now they finally adjusted to the point where they're taking away the explosive plays. You're not going to see big explosions of points anymore. You got to get the methodical offenses. You got to be able to move the ball within the 6 to 10 yard range. The Niners can do that because they have so many dudes, and they also have a scheme that allows them to create so many matchups positionally, and they can run the ball really well. I think the second part of that is quarterbacks are getting younger, and with not having experience comes doing dumb shit. Like the oldest quarterback in the NFL right now is Aaron Rodgers, and he hasn't played. Then you got Kirk, and then you got Ryan Tannehill. And those guys are in their mid-30s. Like, quarterbacks are getting younger. And I think that's because of the old wave of quarterbacks finally, leaving the league. And now every team is drafting a quarterback because you got to have one in the NFL. You got to have a quarterback in order to be competitive. So you're seeing a lot of young guys. I think last week, 10 rookies started last week. That's an NFL record. Scoring's down for a reason. These young guys are having to play real early, and it's hard to play in the NFL. It's really hard to play in the NFL when you don't have everything going for you like you did at college. So it's a multi-pronged thing, but I think it's really cool that defenses have kind of taken the baton back from opposing offense. I mean, we can look at it through lens of coaching hires or potential coaching hire candidates. The guys we're talking about, outside of Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, Lou Anarumo. We're talking about guys DeMeco Ryans, who got a job last year. We're talking about defensive guys who have changed the game. And now it's time for offenses to punch back. So there's probably going to be a little lull in scoring. It happened last year. It's happening this year. It'll probably happen again until offenses figure out a counterpunch, because that is the cyclical nature of football.